So welcome everybody to episode 13 of Level Up, our weekly Q&A show where your questions really do drive the conversation. If you're watching on LinkedIn or on YouTube, hello and welcome, and please do follow the links in the chat over to Slido, which is really where you get to drive the show by voting up the questions that you would like the panel to answer, and also, of course, by adding your own. The first half of the show is general Q&A on the theme of IT service management. So you can pretty much ask anything that you would like to pertaining to that. In the second half, we're going to choose a topic where we want to spend a little bit more time. And today we're going to explore the role of the modern service manager. Many of us have worked around service management now for pretty much all of our professional careers. But the modern service manager has never before faced a landscape which is more complex and more challenging at all. So that's what we're going to dive into. So look, let's jump across and meet our panel for today. We're going to start off in South Africa when welcoming back Johann Botha, who's a seasoned IT expert, leading a great team at Get It Right. So welcome, Johann. Great to see you again.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, it's great to be back. Spend a lot of time in specifically the IT service management space. So I think my first exposure was ITIL version 1. So that's some time back. Yeah, hopefully we've learned some lessons and I can add some value to the conversation.
Excellent. I'm sure that you will do. Thank you so much for joining. From India now, we welcome Suresh GP, who's a regular contributor and is the Managing Director of Talk Solutions. He works extensively in the fields of BRM, IT governance, and service management, and so on. So, hi, Suresh. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks, Nick. Good to be back again on this favorite episode of us, because service management is close to our heart, and I'm looking forward to sharing our perspectives and keep this rocking on.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. New on the panel today is Kwaba Júnior. He's also based in South Africa and is the technology lead for service management governance over at Net Campus. Hi, Kwaba. How are you?
Hi, Nick. Thank you for welcoming me into the panel. I have a almost long career providing training in service management, and I hope to share that, which I understand, with the group.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Crossing continents, we're going across to Sri Lanka and to catch up with Nirmalan, who joins us. Again, he holds over 27 years of experience in the IT industry, and he's the CEO and principal consultant at Kenvisa. Hi, Nirmalan. Good to see you.
Hi, Nick. Nice to connect you all here. Thanks for having me. Had almost a complete diversity of experience, traveling from programming, security, all over the management areas. Hope to have a good contribution.
Okay, excellent. I think it's a bit of a theme for most of us who are at this kind of stages in our careers. When we joined the IT industry, things were very much more fluid than they are now. Things were not so well defined and not so clear, and we've generally kind of collected a whole range of different experiences in different industries, different roles, responsibilities, and so on. Completing the panel for today is Mart Rovers. He's joining us from the Netherlands, but I think it's a lot colder and wetter than where you usually live in Arizona. Mart, he's president of Interprom, and he's also going to be taking us through today's focus topic. So welcome, Mart.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for having me. And indeed, the first decade in my career was kind of nice free-for-all IT world. But then when in the early 90s, I did coaching, consulting, and training in service management. Little did I know that 30 years later, I would still be talking about it. So thanks for having me. Look forward to this session.
Yeah, it's kind of grown out a little, hasn't it? It's sort of, grown like Topsy. So yeah, great. So Mark's going to take us through our focus topic for today, which is something I'm very much looking forward to. It's really all about that complexity and the jigsaw puzzle, the three-dimensional Jenga that people play around modern service management, you know, how to be all things to all, I suppose. So look, if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, you know, I could answer some of those questions and I'd love to be a panelist, please do just volunteer. It's really easy and straightforward. And then we will welcome you to join us on a future panel. So we're going to jump straight into our questions and hear from our question master for today, who is Charlotte, and she's joining us from the Thames Valley in the UK. So Charlotte, can we have the first question, please?
You can, Nick. And it's a question, I think, from one of our panelists, Mart Rovers. Establishing a service culture and value-focused culture are both in the spotlight these days. How do both correlate and influence each other?
Okay, Suresh, get us going.
Well, that's a great question when you talk about service culture and value-focused culture. So first, let's define what do you mean by service culture and value-focused culture. Then we'll talk about the interdependencies. So service culture, by means of service management, we have already focused on VOCR, value, outcomes, without the associated cost and risk. So we focused on service culture very predominantly saying that they need to realize the value and achieve that outcomes. Now, it's very vaguely interpreted because it's easy to tell about value and outcomes, but how do you measure it? And that's where I think you need to have a principle of value-focused culture, because value is very subjective. So one of the things is to really understand what does the value mean for every stakeholder in the organization. And when we start putting the value conversation before a cost conversation, then I think the whole paradigm shift happens. Unfortunately, Nick, still now I haven't seen a lot of companies move away from this. I'm looking forward to that modern service manager with that change the whole dimension, but we're still being heavily focused on service, but fundamentally miss a point that it's all boiling down to value. Because once you have value as the fulcrum, then the service culture becomes much more integrated, a natural fit to finally deliver some outcomes that the stakeholder watches. So it is definitely very important to focus on value. Otherwise, we'll become obsolete.
It's a tricky thing to measure, as you say, Kwaba. What are your thoughts? And then we'll come to Nirmalan.
Just to add to what Suresh has stated, I want to go to the people point. So to deliver the service culture, we're still going to rely on the employees, on the technicians that we have. And once we come to the conversation of value focused, how do my values as your employee align to whatsoever the culture of the organization wants to achieve? So yes, it touches on how we go about hiring people, how we go about validating the fit to the organization. But I think it is a huge complement, ensuring alignment of values of the personnel to the direction of customer centricity or service culture that we have in mind.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Nirmalan?
Yeah, I'm going to endorse what Suresh said a little bit more deeply. Customer-centric actions, the moment that you start focusing on customer, looking at the point of view of customer, understanding the customer, and creating value with the perspective of customer, actually brings a lot of benefit on both sides. Actually, both will get synced. Your service culture and the value-based culture will get a sync there the moment that you start looking at the customer and starting to create value generation from the customer's point of view.
Okay, thank you very much. Mart, you posed the question. I'm guessing that this was coming out more and more from the consulting work, that you do with clients. How are your clients navigating, between these things and correlating them together?
You're spot on, Nick, indeed. So it's You definitely run in organizations that have had a focus on service management for quite some time. And the beauty of having that focus is that a service inherently comes with value. I mean, it's part of the definition even, right? What is often missing is, so what is the value? Let's define the value that we're pursuing. In other words, and that's what we were just talking about, that once we are clear on what's the customer seeking, what's their value, what is of value to them, that can in turn drive, of course, our value focus, but also our service focus. In other words, if these are the services they value most, then let's focus on those services and not focus on the services that they don't value as much or don't value at all. So both are very much intertwined, and both can help each other tremendously just by being aware of there's such thing as a service focus and a value focus, and how they can strengthen each other.
Okay, thank you very much. Johann, you were going to add something.
Yeah, I just want to maybe add, I think service organizations has for too long done services to their customers rather than for their customers. And okay. The whole service definition starts with this issue of what is it that my customer is trying to achieve? What is the outcomes that they want? And it's wonderful if everybody can understand that, because that drives the activities within the organization in its service provider, and it helps everybody to understand what's their contribution. And if you could get that right, you create a environment where everybody the efforts are aligned to actually unlocking that value for the customer. And maybe just another thing that one also needs to bear in mind is that IT don't create value on its own. The value is actually created by the use of services, or the consumption of services by our customers. And I think far too often customers expected us to measure value on our side of the fence. The right place to measure it is actually on their side of the fence. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly important to get that measurement right and be able to frame it in the context of the customer, because that does vary all of the time. And I really feel that these things are intrinsically linked. They're not separate at all. They're actually, if you think about it, they are, perhaps the most overlapping areas within a Venn diagram, to think about. And if you're feeling forces pulling these things further apart, then there's a strong chance you need to revisit the principles that underpin all of this and think across your organization. Are we truly customer centric, or are we just, wearing the cloak that suggests we might be? Very good. So great question to start us off. Thanks so much, Mart. Charlotte, let's move forward then and take the next question, please.
We've got a question from Arthur, I think from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our directors want to start with a digital transformation. Will this impact how we manage and deliver services?
Okay, so digital transformation and the impact on management and the delivery of services. Suresh, go ahead.
Well, I think today with the pandemic, everybody understands it's a digital business. So obviously, I would probably look at not just delivering services. I would talk a little more about capabilities, because the capabilities are a little different from the services that you provide to your end clients or business partners. So when we're trying to think about how do we manage your capabilities, what I call as digital capabilities, we go back to the center of your having your customer or end client at the center and look at what does value look for them, like what we talked about in the previous question. But not just stop there. When we are going to work with a good partner ecosystem, and I think that partner ecosystem could be whatever you call as suppliers or third-party vendors, And that's very important because when you're building a digital transformation service, it's not just about your capability that matters. It's also about orchestrating the partner capabilities to make this really work. And I think that approach is so important to playing the orchestrator role from the beginning till the end, that is so seamless. And as you rightly said, Nick, it's getting a lot more complex because there's so much of moving parts to juggle around. But having that blueprint of what is that we are doing in order to make ourselves relevant and much more sustainable in the whole journey is so important. So before you start something, let's start understand what are we really trying to do, and let's not reinvent the whole wheel because someone said the digital is the new way, so we will just refurbish everything and call it as digital. So you need to really understand the tenets that build that and then move forward. That's my take.
Okay, thank you very much, Johann, and then Mart.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is the term digital transformation has actually become a little bit trite, because everybody is digital transforming, but they're actually doing nothing. So the first thing is understand, are you busy transforming or are you just busy digitizing? I think there's a lot in terms of service management that we can digitize. There's a ton of work that we're actually doing, and we're already seeing that happening. Especially on the support level, where it can change the way that we deliver services just by automation. But inherently, if you're talking about true digital transformation, it means that the organization looks differently afterwards, the entire organization. And if that didn't change the way that you deliver services, then you haven't transformed. And you really have to think outside of the box.
Okay, thank you very much. Mart?
Yeah, if I look at the question, will digital transformation impact my service, the way we manage or deliver services? I would say ask the question how it will impact. It will. I mean, and even if you go a step further, if you know you are a service provider, I applaud the director who says we need to do more in digital transformation. If you deliver services, you should have been, and this sounds maybe a little bit harsh, ahead of this and say, how can digital transformation enhance my services, improve my services, and therefore, the value of my services, and therefore better customer experience, you name it. In other words, be a lot more proactive in this space and say, so what digital transformation is out there and how can my service or our services benefit from it, and make that your focal point going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Now, look, if you're watching online and you'd want to put your question, you can do straight to the panel live. It's really easy to do. Just follow that link across to Slido and pop a question in there for us. And I can see that the questions are coming in now and starting to stack up. So on that note, Charlotte, let's take the next question, please.
So we've got a question from Seth IL in the USA. Can you recommend a streamlined ITSM framework? The traditional ones to be far too complicated to implement and achieve rapid results.
Okay, Mart and then Nirmalan.
My thought immediately goes to FitSM. FitSM.eu is the website. It's a lightweight service management standard, ITSM standard. It's something that is funded by the European Committee, and all the information on that website I just shared with you is freely available, the standard itself, including role guides, implementation guides, an assessment, PowerPoint slides, a lot of free materials. But the beauty of the standard is it's lightweight. It's following a system approach. In other words, it puts together a service management system. It has about 85 to-dos for you, 85 requirements to put a service management system together. Much less complicated than the more complicated, more complex one that we've out there. It's straightforward. It has brought back service management to the bare minimum we should be doing as a service provider at the very, very least. We can always do more, but let's do at least these 85 things per FitSM. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Nirmalan.
Yeah, as Mark said, it's FitSM definitely has done the explanation, but on the other side of it, you can also go for ISO 20000, which also will address your basic needs.
Okay, thank you. So 2 really good starting points there. I think, I'm with you. Having worked for really large organizations, the challenge is to get going on something. Get going on something, make a change, make a difference. So embrace, a standard and a way forward. Go ahead, Mart.
Indeed, just to build on that, FitSM and ISO, they nicely build on top of each other. They're not sitting in each other's way, depending on where your organization is at the moment. Highly recommend to consider both. Again, their standards, they pretty much tell you this is what you should be doing at the very least. I call them to-do lists, checklists, basically. You work your way down these requirements. And slowly but surely, you'll see that there's an finish, there's an end line, there's an end goal. Having a service management system in place that is well integrated, well oiled with all the integrations between the processes and the services. Of course, the people components come with that, but far less complex. And I've seen organizations going for FitSM compliance and then seek 20,000 certification afterwards. And you can complement all these efforts with other standards and frameworks that are out there. All your efforts in this space are not for nothing, but it basically gives you something to aim for, something to focus on. And there is a finish line. In other words, once you meet all the requirements, you'll have a service management system in place compared to, how many more books are out there and how many more recommendations should we follow. The SMS, the service management system, will basically guide you there.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Thanks very much, panel. Some great insight there. And, if you want to connect with anybody on the panel to find out more and, get some of that kind of one-to-one, mentoring or coaching, I'm sure everybody's open to that. You can find out more about their LinkedIn profiles and so on our website on apmginternational.com. So, Nirmalan, with your patience, we're just going to move on now to the next question as they're kind of stacking up in the back end. So let's press on, please, Charlotte.
Okay, we've got a question from Jennifer in London, UK. Our organisation seems to spend more time building ITSM processes that are really followed than providing a great customer experience. How can we break out of this unproductive cycle?
Okay, it's a bit of a vicious circle, where more is more and more end up delivering less. Suresh, how do you help organisations? Because they're always well-meaning, about wanting to have more control. How do you help people out of that nightmare?
One of the things that we have seen working with organizations globally is I think there is a mad craze to do all of the things one time quickly and just leave the place. So the whole question is, what are we trying to do as a first place? So let's start with some basics. And I'm haunted many times when you talk about processes or practices. You want to have 34 processes all in one place and nobody even knows what is happening around. So we'll probably start with some basics to understand what is the model that you're working, what kind of support you need, what kind of competencies you have, and what makes the most important impact to your customers or end clients. You just start with some basics. And the other part of the problem we see is that people love workflows and streamlines with roles and responsibilities. It's a very small shop. I don't have so many people to do this work. Can you please make this one simple and get it? No. This is what ITIL says. We need to have all of these stuff in place in order to make it relevant. One of the customers said, according to this service design book or strategy book, this is what it's been mentioned. So you are telling me something different. So you have this classic tussle to tell them, well, it's not a Bible or a Quran. We need to focus on what is more relevant in the context of an organization. And I'll tell you one example, and I'll wrap it up. The customer I met said that we hired you as a consultant and you've just delivered 30 pages of a process guide for incident management. He said, I expect 150 pages. So people have this wrong notion that the more is better without even understanding whether it still works or not. So keep it simple, stupid is what I would go about, and then make it relevant.
Absolutely right. Johann, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this fixation that we had with best practices is luckily subsiding, and people are starting to realize that best practice are there to service as a service to us, not as a dictate. To this answer or question, I would say start where you are. What is your current problem? There's lots of good guidance out there, but use it as guidance. Don't forget about your own experience. Don't forget about common sense. Solve a problem. And if you solve a problem, you'll make things better. But please stop doing things for the sake of compliance or creating shelfware. You need to make a difference.
Thank you very much. And Kwaba, just to finish off on this one before we move on.
Yes, I think in summary, all we have to say is prove to the organization that all the work that has been done to this point has been of no value. All the processes that have been introduced have come to no product, no end whatsoever. So as part of change management, we have to, show proof that we have done value or created benefits to the organization. So if all of these processes that have been introduced are just adding to the shelf and nothing else is being added, then it's an easy enough way to prove to the organization that should be stopped.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of finish on it, a lot of the best practices as well now that they're built into some of the more modern software, particularly the software as a service that we're all using. So from that perspective, you can actually afford now legitimately to relook at your processes and procedures, particularly the really detailed working procedures that you're asking colleagues to follow. And just consider, is that really necessary any longer, or is it a duplication of effort? Because those business rules are already built in to a lot of the software that we're using, right? So from that perspective, if you're using the power of the software that you're purchasing, that you're licensing, that you're renting every day and every week and every month, then actually some of these more complex, more manually driven procedures, they had their day. Okay, but now it's time to look with a fresh pair of eyes. So look, panel, I think if we pick up the pace a little bit, we can fit in one more question before we go to our focus topic. So Charlotte, can we have the next question, please?
Nick, we have a question from Priya. Does ITIL 4 address the needs of the hour in terms of industry requirements?
Okay, it's a very broad topic and it's a very broad question. But if I could ask the panel to be kind of super brief, Nirmalan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, yes, the ITIL 4 has addressed whatever the new technologies and the practices which are in place, giving consideration for digital transformation, agile practices, DevOps practices. So in that sense, making short, yes, it does address the need of the hour.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that. I appreciate the question as well.
And also, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, it has addressed, though the ITIL V3 has spoken about customer-centric operations in different forms, this ITIL 4 has given more focus and also have clearly specified how that could be done.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that. So good. So look, that's brought us up to our kind of focus topic time. So we're going to change gears now and start thinking about, what are the nuances really and the challenges that are facing the modern service manager? We were talking before we came on air about all of our backgrounds and the years that we've had involved in technology and IT and software and so on. And when we added it all up, it was a big number. So how does the modern service manager really cope with that? And to lead us through his thoughts is Mart Rovers. So Mart, over to you. To hear you.
Certainly then, Nick, thank you. The modern service manager, obsessively focused on strategic aspects. That's what my subtitle what I had in mind. And as far as moving the slides, Nick or Nigel, maybe you can help me. My app is not helping me at this point.
Yeah, of course, don't worry. Just ask for the next slide and we'll move through them for you.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that. So to start a topic about the modern service manager, I thought let me then offset that with what is a not so modern service manager, who in my eyes is a follower. And if we click on the next slide, then too many times I still run into service managers, service owners, quite obsessed with putting together service catalogs with relationships between services and service definitions. And another obsession they have, if you click again, please, is that they worry all about their service level agreements, as in the next service level agreement, and if we click again, the service reporting that needs to be done every month. So let's make sure we have that next service report ready for them for the next service meeting. If we click again, where we are put to the test, as in, hey, did you deliver? What went well? What didn't go too well last month? What can we do better? I mean, if this is the modern service manager, it says in, if we click again, it's, yeah, one more click, it's boring. I mean, that's past. If this is your day-to-day, perception or understanding of what is service manager all about, what does a person do, as in this is the past. You should have left that station many years ago. Actually, the modern service manager is a leader, a service leader maybe. He has somebody who declares service as a top priority. As in, we are a service organization. 80-90% of any organization out there today is a service provider, provides services. So what are the services that you provide? Make the services a priority. Remove any roadblock you can think of to better services, whether that's people, process, technology, whether that's your culture, your value systems that are in the way, yes, or need to be aligned. Promote common language, that never goes away. Speak the service language, so to speak. Live and breathe service language. Empower the people, the team behind the service, right? Make them knowledge and make them aware how they can contribute to even better services. Be a great role model. It's another characterization of being a leader. In other words, if we go back, I'll let you know when to click. We're going a little bit ahead with the clicks here. When you talk about measure what matters when it's about services. Yes, your measurement systems of your services should align with the measurement systems that you have in your organization. What is important for your organization? If your service quality is not being measured in alignment with what's the objective or the goal of your organization, start adjusting, right? Sustained focus and enthusiasm to continue that service mindset. And that service mindset is something that I was highlighting in that system management approach earlier in this session. System-oriented, end-to-end systems. In other words, your processes are connected, your people are connected, your technology, it's all intertwined. It's all like spinning gears that are all locked and need to go in lockstep with each other. That's your focus as a service manager these days. What goes on in your organization, but what goes on within your service provider organization? How does it connect and link to any other system services in other parts of your organization, and even further with your third parties that you depend on? Then we get into terms like service value chains, service integration, or federations. You may have picked up on those words in the service management world these days. These service value chains or service integrations are becoming more and more critical because of our dependency on strategic partners that are not always, part of our own organization. So therefore, your portfolio, your service portfolio, needs to be focused on these integrations. What is it that you would like to have in your portfolio that makes you strategic? And what is that you have in your portfolio today you no longer want to have in your portfolio? In other words, there is another party out there who can do it much better, much more affordable than if we keep this doing ourselves. So take a hard and deep look at your portfolio. I was talking earlier about FitSM, talking about the bare minimums of things we should be doing in service management. And it has scaled back the number of processes to 14 processes. And guess which of the processes is still part of those 14? That's service portfolio management. It's one that requires all your attention. And you should build a portfolio that is innovation focused, right? That it takes into account those digital transformation opportunities to enrich your services. And also, and if you click again, it's not shying away from a service sourcing. In other words, let's source these services from wherever we can get them better, faster, cheaper, you name it. So we don't get stuck with things that that are not strategic to us and that don't make us stand out as an organization. Yeah, so as a service manager, take a hard look at your own service. Is my service still strategic? And how can I make it even more strategic? And if it isn't, ask yourself, should we still be doing this? Part of that is, and if we click again, has to do with establishing a service culture in your organization. Yes. Again, your portfolio ideally is mainly comprised of your critical services. You deliver services that continuously create value. Yes. Services that don't create the value you're pursuing, ask yourself, why are we still doing this? Yes. The service mindset is something else for a service manager to focus on. The modern service manager is quite obsessed with establishing a service mindset in your organization. Something as simple as how we meet and greet each other, how we treat each other. Yes, is that service oriented? Not only with your end customers that are paying for your services, but also within your organization, right? We're all servicing each other, so to speak, internally, externally. So we go out of the way to help each other. Yes. So demonstrate that service passion is what ignites basically that service-oriented mindset, and that can hopefully spark that, within your organization a culture that is purely a service focus. As a service manager, you have a huge role to play here in establishing that culture. So because of that, you're also obsessively focused on building relationships and better connections within your organization, outside of your organization, with those that you depend on, or those that you deliver your services to. You stay in touch with them. You think long term with them. You make proactive recommendations, and you always look for feedback to make sure that you get the rewards that you're seeking. Yes. So, modern service manager. One more click. Not so boring person. If we click one more, then you're looking at somebody who's a little bit more excited and can't wait for the next challenge to take that one on, as far as being a better service provider, having a true service culture. And I want to wrap it up with one more click, that is to characterize this service owner, this service manager, who's a service leader from the DISC perspective, somebody who's results oriented, innovative, competitive, who's direct, right? Who doesn't shy away from saying this service is no longer of strategic value. What am I going to do with it? People oriented, of course, that remains. Enthusiastic, optimistic, creative person. Creative as in there's always room for opportunities, there's always room for improvements. What else can I do to make my service even more in demand, so to speak? Somebody who's also sincere, dependable, loyal, somebody who's modest, accurate, cautious, precise, and analytical. These are a few character traits I thought fit well with the modern service manager, and I want to wrap it up with those words. Hopefully, a few takeaways for some of you, and look forward to some questions and a follow-up discussion.
Okay, thanks so much, Mart. It's really interesting, and when you're using those thoughts around, are you a follower or are you a leader, and where do you build that experience, and how does that experience manifest itself in value for your colleagues? It's too easy sometimes to kind of think and sit back and accept the status quo as the best that we can be. In reality, things move on all of the time, and we need to continue and re-challenge ourselves, I think, in all of that. So really insightful, very thought-provoking. Thank you very much. And I know that we've got some new questions coming from folks who are watching on LinkedIn. So Charlotte, let's take the first focus topic question, if we may. And Charlotte, we can't hear you. So the question for those of you who are listening online is that I am concerned that automation in the IT service management space is going to cost me my job. Is there any way to overcome that risk? So Mart, I want to come to you first as you presented the topic, and then Johann will come to you next. Go ahead, Mart.
Well, automation is there to, in general, right, to make your lives easier. Let's start there, and doesn't always necessarily mean that it's going to cost you a job. It should automate whatever can be automated as far as your work, and it should free up time for you so you can focus on less routine type work that is automatable, if that's a word, compared to, and then make time available where you then can start focusing on, let's say, establishing the right service culture in your organization. I mean, there is plenty of opportunities there to enhance services, improve services, changing service mindsets in organizations, and that also cost a tremendous amount of effort and energy. In other words, you won't be out of a job, so to speak, because of another thingy that is introduced in your organization to make your life actually easier.
Right, Johann?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that you need to bear in mind. Is if you want to make sure that you've got a job in the future, be a problem solver. The machines can't do that. They really battle to deal with complex adaptive systems. So start doing the things that you always thought you never had time to do. So pay off technical debt. Work on the relationships and build relationships with your customers. Machines can't do that. Bots are terrible communicators. So there's a ton of human characteristics that we can use to build a meaningful career. And in any case, the stuff that's been automated was really not the nicest work to do. It's routine. Humans make mistakes when they do those things. We can do more meaningful stuff. We can make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Kwaba?
Yes, Nick, I think there's one point that Mart covered in the presentation that touches and resonates with us, is that a leader is forward-thinking. So you could reskill, you could look at other areas of contribution within the organization. If one is really at the point of fear of being redundant within the role that you have, it's automation just opens up so many opportunities within the business that I think one just needs to be ready, or at least prepare themselves to take advantage of those.
Yeah, most certainly right. On the automation side, there's been some very interesting studies by analysts kind of looking ahead of time, first of all, and then more currently at actually what is happening. And I think the early view was that automation was likely to reduce the workforce quite considerably in service economies, and particularly in the IT space. But the reality actually is that the fight for talent of the kind of IT elite, if you like, people that really understand, is as strong as ever. So therefore, if you keep your skills moving forward, if you march forward, with determination and pace, I think what you'll find is your value to the organization trebles. Okay, because that kind of increase in the intelligent, emotionally intelligent, as well as rationally intelligent individual who's working in this space, that you're going to be in huge demand. So keep doing that. Charlotte, next question, please.
Thanks, Nick. Next question is from David, South Africa. How can we build in more agility within our ITSM implementation while still maintaining control?
Okay, Suresh, go ahead.
So one of the things I think we have to be careful is that Agile is not just for software development. So Agile is a set of principles and values that you can imbibe in any walk of your life. And particularly with respect to service management, how can we apply the Agile principles and philosophy is more important. It's more important to think Agile rather than do Agile. So one of the things that I strongly recommend to follow is around the change management process. Typically one of the most bureaucratic processes that I see in every organization. So how can you make it simplified? Because if you are trying to have releases happening every day instead of every once in 2 weeks, how can we make it more standard changes? How can it make it much more easy for the rollout to happen? So I think putting that into a part of improving your lead time and cycle time is going to be important, because frankly, people do not want to wait and watch for the releases to happen. They want to happen immediately. We are absolutely on an attention deficit syndrome. So putting that into perspective, I think we have to break this monolithic blocks into much more nimble in a way that we can quickly deliver value, and more importantly, focus on feedback loops. So continual service improvement, feedback loops, observing things, and making sure that we are keeping it simplified. And the guiding principles of ITIL 4 will be a good opportunity for us to start and then see some progress. But start from where you are, make some iterative improvements, get quick feedbacks, and more importantly, see the value being demonstrated every walk of your life, walk of your process, so that you will be able to make it.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Suresh. So we're going to press on. Time is not on our side. So Charlotte, let's jump to the next question, if we may. I think has come in from our live audience this afternoon.
Hi, yes, so sorry. The question is from a live candidate. Is the modern service management, I'm struggling to see the question at the moment, Nick, I'm sorry.
That's all right, don't worry, no great problem. So we will get to that just right now, try and bring it up for you, everybody. It got kind of clicked on and moved across. So the question is modern service management about to include certain horizontal aspects of different best practices, okay? Including things like Prince2, Lean Agile, BMRP, business relationship management. I think that's all about scaled agile within the general framework. So let's kind of just sort of touch on this panel if we can. So it's really, I think, adding to those thoughts about the maturity of the modern service manager, and that people are expected to know a great deal across a whole range of different topics now, which all kind of intervene and interlace. Johann, kick us off, and then I think what we'll do is we'll come to Suresh next. Go ahead.
I think that the thing that we need to bear in mind is all of these best practices are tools in a toolbox. And we must stop with this fixation that we think that we have to do everything within the toolbox. When we write best practice, we try and write inclusively, but we don't intend you to use all of them. So if it makes sense, use it in your organization. I mean, from my perspective, I would stick with stuff that's light. So I like FITSM and I like Lean IT. And I think those two are a great combination to start with. And obviously, if you talk about getting stuff done, then doing it in an agile way. So it can include any of these, but if I had my pick, I would choose those three.
Okay, all right, Suresh, super brief, then I'll come to Mart.
I think giving a merit of all these frameworks and understanding what they are communicating is so important, because in every organization you have people from different skills. So it's very important how do you communicate and effectively articulate the value conversation. So knowing about these things are important, but then try to fit in what is more appropriate in the context of an organization.
Yeah, good advice, Mart.
Agree with both comments made indeed. Yeah, let's not get too focused on the next framework or the next standard. Service management was always this general term, and then you can plug and play where what's needed whenever it's needed, whenever it's needed, whether that's from Agile or Prince or FitSM, you name it. And maybe we haven't really talked about it enough, but it was also something that popped up in an earlier question, process focus. So what about the service, right? Where is the service? Organizations 10 years into service management still don't have a service defined, as in, let's start focusing on services, and then the processes, people, technology will follow basically, or maybe goes hand in hand. And then whatever tool framework is out there that we need to have better services, we plug into this bigger picture. So let's make the service a focal point.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder sometimes when organizations get obsessed with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's like the difference between when my children were younger, and I used to go along and watch, a soccer game. And when you're 7 years of age, generally what happens is the entire team on both sides, they all go where the ball is. So wherever the ball is, that's where all the players are. Okay, they're all running around after the ball. Okay? And then a little later on in life, somebody figures out, actually, it's much better if you just spread out and pass it to each other. And then you can score a lot more goals and you can have a lot more fun. But it takes time to kind of find that, rhythm, if you like, and the way of teamwork. And knowing that your team member is going to be where you want to kick the ball to, not necessarily where they are now, So having that trust in the maturing organization around the IT service manager is really important, so that we can develop more agile thinking, across our business, not just in software development, but actually in terms of thinking about, the customer and what is that minimum viable product, that's going to deliver excellence for your client. So look, really good, very well done, panel. It's been an absolute delight. If you're online and you're watching this and your question's not being answered, we're kind of out of time for today, but we will get you an answer back to you. Okay, so the folks who are handling the chat online, thank you for doing that. And we'll make sure that we get the answers fed back to you. So what I'd like to do now is just invite our panel just to give us their closing thoughts. So Mart, we'll start with you and then we'll come to Johann next. Go ahead.
I'll keep it short and maybe boring. I would say take a fresh look at your service portfolio and make that your start of becoming a more modern service manager. And hopefully that service portfolio will ignite some innovative efforts in your organization that refreshes this whole portfolio and makes you of much more value as a provider than you've ever been.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Johann, and then Nirmalan.
Understand what value your customer is trying to create and help them to do that.
Excellent. In a nutshell. Perfect. Thank you very much. Nirmalan?
Yeah. Focus on customer value creation. See what you are going to deliver to the customer as value, and see how you are going to deliver that value, and ensure that you are fulfilling their requirements.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Suresh.
Focus on business value. You have to have a cohort to make this happen. So you cannot do it alone. So please make sure that you jump in together, hold hands tight, and move forward. And remember, we only get one chance. So let's do it really well from the beginning.
Thank you. And Kwaba?
Yes, to avoid the divorce between yourself and your customers, you better improve your ability to mature the relationship. So become a better relationship manager in the process.
Okay, that's really good and timely advice. I think there's some conferences that are going on this week all about business relationship management. So you can jump into that if you Google it, and we'll put a little comment in the chat underneath the recording of this, so that you can find a URL to jump over and join in those sessions. Charlotte, your closing thoughts for today?
Just to say thank you very much to the panelists. It's been a fantastic episode again. We've had many more questions that we could have asked. So another episode on service management would be brilliant if we could.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, we will include that. And if you're sitting watching this and you're thinking, that you would like to volunteer, then please just mention it in the chat, and one of the talent management team will be in touch to be able to help you on that journey. Now, next Monday, episode 14 is going to begin a conversation all about online learning. And that is going to kick off at 9 o'clock in the morning, British summertime, which is a little bit of a time change for us. So we're moving towards a kind of 7 p.m. Australian time as the kind of preferred spot for the early show. So that's 9 o'clock UK, 1:30 in India, and 7 p.m. For colleagues who are in Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Now, we're specifically going to be talking about the use of virtual classrooms, what works, what doesn't work, how to collaborate, how to recreate that differentiation in teaching and learning that is so powerful when you are in a face-to-face situation. So please join us for that. Later on in the same day, we'll be looking at the worlds of project and change management, often referenced in today's panel about how important that is. And specifically, we're going to be talking about how to prepare for interviews. Now, there are always two sides to this. There's the organizations who are wanting to hire great people. So what are the questions really that you should be asking? And importantly, if you're one of the people who are applying for a role at the moment, how to best go about answering those kinds of questions. So do subscribe to the show, and we'll send you over each week a personal summary of what's coming up and how you can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. So thanks very much, everybody. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next show. Bye-bye now.